strategic coupling makes a lot of sense. As a matter of fact, that's how things used to be.
But if you put financial coupling at the very top, you might have a better chance of building a solid life together that may lead to generational wealth.
Disney screwed us up. Disney was like, we're supposed to have this fairy tale. We're supposed to have love, 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 love. It's not actually a great foundation for marriage.
You know, you grow to love, man, but can you plan to grow? Word on the streets is that people are now even marrying their BFFs that they have no romantic attachment to, right? They're doing these financial marriages for stability, for a different kind of security, you know? And I don't know. So on one hand, people should be like, hey, there's more marriages. But then on the other hand, I guess it feels a little less orthodox than what people are used to. And I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on that while we were talking about it. Is it's just like the end of emotional engagement? Or is this like a new foundation, a new prototype, a new way for people to build relationships while they try to figure it out? Maybe while they test drive to see how this person handles different things. What do you guys think?
Well, listen, when I read the study, or it was, the clip of the study about how I think 25% of couples who were asked if they would move in together prematurely for financial reasons, how they answered in the affirm. And then I guess the people who did the study kind of, said that, hey, this could lead to some bad things. And so we kind of projected out, obviously, in terms of it leading to marriage. And so, at first, the inclination of a transactional relationship or even transactional marriage has had a very bad taste, right? Because we hear it all the time in regards to what's happening, right? Women are just wanting this for that. It feels tit for tat in the dating space. And so when I heard this, I was like, right? And I can see why there'd be some concern. But to be honest with you, what other reason are people coupling for? Because I feel like the ones that were currently doing it probably aren't good either, right? And I would think that if people were really thinking about their finances, it would suggest something about them, right? Because, for example, if people are getting together for vibes or dick or because a person is cute, right, it has no bearing necessarily on whether or not that person is going to be a good partner, whether you can manage your finances together, build a home or a life together. But there's some of the reasons that women and men are coupling, right? Out of convenience. I met at the gas station. We ended up having sex. We like having sex with each other. So let's keep on having it. And we're together. And then we're moving in. So honestly, after I reframed it, I realized actually this could be something that makes sense. I think we might need to really consider this because number one, if a person is really thinking about coupling, they're doing some budgeting. Wow, good for y'all. Look at y'all. Y'all are thinking about your finances today and tomorrow, right? It suggests that maybe you might even have good credit, right? It suggests that you may even have some things in common, maybe some goals in common that you guys can work on together. Maybe it doesn't require the butterflies in the beginning. Right? Because even in cultures where they have arranged marriages, some of those couples do grow a deep, biting affection and love for each other. Right? Maybe that's because it's built out of similar cultural values or cultural values. Right? So I just think, in the dire straits that we're in today, it is worth considering financial coupling. Right? And I think if you frame it that way, then some of the things that you'd have to be good at doing as a financial couple would require you to make sacrifices. Because when you're budgeting, you can't get everything you want all the time. So you have to know how to put money aside and say no to some things. Ooh, what a concept, right? Or plan, reach goals together. So I just kind of feel like just as an exercise, if couples, even if you're not doing it for that reason, but if you put financial coupling at the very top, aside from the dick and the vibes, you might have a better chance of building a solid life together that may lead to generational wealth, right? So I get it. We're afraid of the word transaction, but I didn't necessarily hear transaction. I heard financial coupling, which to me speaks of an engagement that seems to be a lot longer than just a singular transaction, right? So maybe if we're thinking long term, there's hope for us yet, even though the experts will say something different. That's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, and I think especially, with the, economy the way it is and inflation, I think strategic coupling makes a lot of sense. As a matter of fact, that's how things used to be. Getting married for the romance and the hallmark of it all. I mean, that's fairly new. But I think, a lot of, especially prominent families, to your point, Nick, they strategically paired up their kids. The families kind of made things, happen. Put them at the very least, if it wasn't a flat out arranged marriage, they put the young people in front of each other, in proximity to each other. I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, if we're spending a lot of time together, for years on end. I'm over at your house a couple of days a week. You're over at my house a couple of days a week. Let's cut out the BS. Let's move in together. Let's stop, giving the system two mortgages or two rents, having two toasters, two refrigerators, two of everything. Let's pool our resources. And I know the whole 50-50 thing is a dirty word, but I think that's a mischaracterization of it. I don't think it's 50-50. It's working together. And you're going to get there a lot faster with two of us, moving in the same direction than one. I think this it's a misallocation of resources over time, saying, okay, well, we're going to live apart for I don't know a year and a half or 2 years or 5 years or whatever it is, when we could have just pooled our resources. I mean, the average cost of a house today is almost $500,000. That's across the board. That's not gonna the money you spent living separate over, I don't know, let's say you guys date 2 or 3 years, you could have been pooling it together and saving it. You would have been that much further down the road. So trust me, Nick, I'm in 100% agreement with you. I think it's strategic and it makes sense to do it sooner rather than later. That's just good planning.
This is super sweet, somewhat. I think we're all going to be in alignment with this. So I did a little additional research, and according to a Pew Research 2023, it stated about 40% of Americans aged 18 to 35 cited financial stability as a prereq for marriage. And if we look at the economy that we're currently in, this is actually a great economic decision because we have the rising cost of living, period, student debt, so many of us in student debt, especially Black women, let's be honest, and unstable housing markets, right? Which you already talked about, Devin, and so forth. And so having a strategic partnership may be the way of the future. As a matter of fact, this may actually be the modern version of survival for marriage purposes because there's other benefits that come with marriage anyways, such as insurance and other things that you get for the purpose and privilege of marriage. I'm going to put privilege of marriage there. And so I also find it interesting that this is not a new phenomenon in other cultures. Is actually financial alignment was never new. It was actually the way of life because they're looking at the way to align economic stability with a family. So families were looking to increase their status or maintain their status through these financial liaisons, aka strategic partnerships and so forth. And it's just not the West is just now coming to this understanding because of the current times that we're in. I blame Disney. Disney screwed us up. Disney was like, we're supposed to have this fairy tale. We're supposed to have love, 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 love first. And while that is a plus, it's not actually a great foundation for marriage to me because you can have all the love you want, but love don't pay the bills, right? Love don't stop you from eating mayonnaise sandwiches if you don't
We can't
have
have
the
love on an air mattress.
Yes,
you
you
can
can.
have love on an air mattress, but don't let me see a roach because now we got problems. Unless they're already in financial alignment and they're building together, right? So they have a vision and a dream, then yeah, love can probably pay the bills in that way because they're building a dream together. But based on the economy now, why start that way? Why not start off with somebody who's already been financially responsible and you say, you know what? This might be a good look for us, especially if you're already having what do they call friends with benefits? That's what they're called, friends with benefits. And even if you're not friends with benefits, I actually heard somebody who mentioned that a long time ago. They almost did it just because they wanted additional benefits of being married and having somebody there to assist them. And so I think it's something that has always been in the works, and we just choose not to do it because we've been told that marriage is supposed to be all about love. We romanticize it thanks to Disney, thanks to the princes and the fairy tales and so forth. We've always romanticized it. The question is, will we get the women on board with this other than the women who are already considered gold diggers, we'll put it that way, which, by the way, I prefer not to call them gold diggers. They're just looking for financial stability as well, financial stability and security. So it's just a matter of survival at this point.
Ironically, the people who are looking for financial stability in the market often buy gold. That's why we call them gold diggers. But I think that it's smart. I agree with all of you in the sense that I think being strategic and thoughtful and intentional is the way to go. I think it's a survival tactic. It's going to be something, a trait we're going to have. I say we as to anybody who is going to be navigating economic waters in the near future, right? The social waters. So I think that's cool. I think also if it's used as a tool to kind of build the relationship that you want, right? Sometimes things work better when you write them out, right? Some vows are better written down. So maybe that's a good way to organize their relationship and to build that, be very intentional with it. It becomes explicit, right? And honestly, I think businesses are probably easier to dissolve than marriages, but that's a whole other story. I said it to say, it's okay to approach things business like, even if they're not as personal as other people think they should be in that thing. Yeah, you can grow if you spend enough time with somebody. You will learn to appreciate the good traits that they have, the value that they bring, if they bring any value at all. You know what I'm saying? You spend enough time with somebody, you'll start to like them if you have no other choice and nobody else to hang with. In most cases, now whatever. There's no absolute rule. I digress. My point here, though, is all that stuff that'll come, right? But you know what's funny? People will talk about it being transactional, but everything is transactional. There's a give and take in every move of nature and energy, right? The positive, the negative, the hot, the cold. It's always transactional. Even if I do something altruistic, I'm getting a good feeling back from it, right? So these are just people who have been able to now categorize and what they really need, right? And to put things in a good perspective, so they're not caught up in the story. They're not living some Disney fantasy. They are intentionally planning out a future and what it looks like, and they're learning how to communicate, to compromise, as someone said earlier, and to lay it all out. And that's the thing you're going to need in any kind of marriage is going to last anyway. So you grow to love, man, but can you grow to plan together? Can you plan to grow?
I'll say this though, because we all seem to agree, right? But it's not like this is the easy path either, right? Because if y'all choose to financially, like if you the basis upon which you guys are going to come together is based off of finances, what happens if somebody loses their job, right? Like I think, yes, it is. I think if there has to be other things there in a foundation of a relationship, like can we communicate? Can we work through our problems? Can we conflict resolve? Those type of things. I think, yes, I both can say, hey, we have the same financial goals, we make good money, but you still have human beings in the mix nonetheless, right? And also what happens if one person doesn't, live up to their end of the bargain? Maybe they're like not as fiscally responsible, right? Because one of the top three reasons that even in relationships and marriages we talked about before was finances is one of the top, right? And so sometimes you can have people who start off on the same plan, but then life happens and then somehow you deviate from that initial plan, right? So if you're going to couple financially, I think it sets up in such a way that you got to be disciplined for real, for real. You got to have communication for real, for real. It's not a thing that you can say, oh, because this is what I feel like when you ask these people these questions, hey, would you do it? Sure. They're just thinking about how much money they're going to save. They're not thinking about the sacrifice. They're not thinking about the discipline. They're not thinking about the work that it's actually going to take. They're only thinking about the benefits of saying, oh, yeah. So I just feel like, yes, we can talk about the benefits of it, but we also got to make sure we talk about the challenges of it too, for real, because money is not like feelings, right? You can have all the feelings in the world, it can go all over the place, but when the rubber hits the road, the bills got to get paid. You can't pay them with feelings, right? So you got to deal with the situations. And then what ends up happening is one person's looking at the other person like, how the fuck did we get here? And as men, sometimes we brought the responsibility, right? Because we're supposed to be providers and protectors, and now she's not respecting you the way that you think you should. She should, right? So it shows up in a lot of different ways, is what I'm saying, when people are not truly aligned on their financial planning goals, and when they don't have a certain level of mutual appreciation, love, and respect for each other. I get it, right? But those cultures, they have the other cultural, I think, scaffolds that allow them to build off of. Whereas for us, I'm saying, yes, let's put finance at the very top, but also recognize that also comes with a lot of responsibilities. There's other elements that need to be there for the relationship to be successful. So, any other thoughts before we get up out of this particular conversation, since we all agreed? Huh?
I think we're all ending on a high note. I think this is a good, positive vibe. I think we've all kind of coalesced and agree on being responsible.
I do have one last toxic question for y'all, since y'all want to
Okay.
be all like nice and neat real quick. If a man and a woman decide to financially couple and they both work the same amount of hours, but she makes significantly less than he does, but he is willing to share with her in terms of the money and split, is it fair for him to expect her to do more around the house?
Let me go
Is it?
ahead and take the easy way out on this one. That's something that they will have to set themselves. I'm not putting that responsibility on me to make that decision for them. It's something that they will have to decide on their own as a couple.
Mm.
Anybody else? Yeah, well,
It's all about
yeah.
who has the time and the energy. You know what I mean? Who has the time and who has the energy? She's got the time, and can verify, give the whereabouts for her energy. Then yes, she should have done some stuff. But I don't even think it's a gender role thing. I think it's about doing whatever the house needs to run. And so if that's what you got to do, it's what you got to do.
Delvin, you
Yeah, I
want to
think
answer
that's a
that?
fair assumption. I think that's okay. Listen, in lieu of us, your contribution is in these other areas because if we outsourced, all of these things that are done around the house, they would have a market value of X, and numbers have been crunched on the value of things, that women historically do around the house. So yeah, I think that's a fair value exchange.